Hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar titled Building Level Intelligence and Flexibility. This webinar is a pre-event for World Summit on a Digital Built Environment 2020, which will be held on at the end of September. And now today here we will have this kind of agenda. First of all, this event is organized by two ongoing ecosystems. One is called KEKO and another one is Smart Otaniemi. First, we will tell shortly about those ecosystems if you don't know them yet. Then we will have 3 keynote lectures and interesting viewpoints about smart buildings, sustainability and energy efficiency. And after these keynote lessons, then we go to the panel discussion, and there we will have additional members joining to us to talk about these topics. And afterwards there's a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So welcome here, and we start with the short introduction of these two ecosystems, KEKO and Smart Otaniemi, and I will start with the KEKO. And I'm actually the coordinator of the Gecko Ecosystem. Gecko is a blossoming building ecosystem, so we are here together developing and researching what is the future of smart buildings. We are developing a platform for managing those smart buildings in the future, and we have those members that are named there in below. We have those as a key members of this ecosystem at the moment, and now it's at the moment it's a project which started at the end of last year, and it runs 2 years, and during that time we are looking at what does it mean to have that kind of platform and that kind of ecosystem for smart buildings, and we are developing that kind of platform solution for that. We are having more than 100 use cases here. We collected those viewpoints from the users of buildings, and we are developing now concept ideas, and we are trying to get out proof of concepts of the most potential services in what we are looking at here. And we are looking at startups and SMEs to join in our ecosystem, and we are opening that kind of views for SMEs to join in, especially for the platform side, so that we are having just that. Actually, this week we opened the developer portal in that under the website of geckoecosystem.com, and this is the main concept of Gecko ecosystem, so that we started with this kind of innovation ecosystem. So we are having these core members, and we are integrating different kind of startups and SMEs to offering something. Of course, it can be services, it can be some technical solutions, whatever, but it's always that it should bring some value for the ecosystem, and starting to build up the ecosystem by that way. And at the end, we are aiming to have a real ecosystem out of this Gecko project, and in the future it will be hopefully quite huge, with different kind of stakeholders offering different kind of services and technologies for smart buildings. That was shortly about Gecko ecosystem, and then we are having another ecosystem called Smart Otaniemi, and we have Sanna Örni from Smart Otaniemi presenting next what they are aiming for.
Okay, hello everyone, and it's nice to see so many participants in this free event. Thanks, Jukka Hemilä, for opening this event. Jukka is my colleague from VTT Technical Research Center of Finland, and it's privilege to host this pre-event for you. So I hope you all get a good overview of Smart Otaniemi via the video that we just showed you. I say here only a few words regarding building level related challenges and solutions, what we have been working with in Smart Otaniemi lately. As we know, we are globally increasing the share of renewables in the energy system and decarbonize heating, transportation, and industrial processes by electrification. And these facts increases the value of flexible consumption. And to be honest, many of these flexible consumption points, they are hidden in the buildings and built environment, like various heat pumps, HVAC systems, EVs, and local distributed resources like solar panels and energy storages. However, before we can harvest all the potential of this flexibility and energy efficiency, we need to overcome the complexities that derives from the lack of data or different automation systems or critical interfaces. There is, for instance, a clear need to add online and or real-time measurements in the subsystems and understand the needs and the behavior patterns of the building users. So in Smart Otaniemi, we have been building the similar innovation ecosystem like Gecko Ecosystem that was presented by Jukka. We have been piloting new technologies, interfaces, and business models for collecting distributed flexibility. And this has meant involving new partners in the flexibility value chain, partners who already have monitoring and control arrangements for a fleet of resources. The results, for instance, cover balancing models for local flexibility operations, models for geothermal energy and seasonal storages, or redefined end user roles on energy market. So that was very briefly what we are doing in Smart Otaniemi. I hope this event with keynotes and panel discussion with the top professionals on the field is insightful and awakens your curiosity to discover more about the collaboration possibilities with the innovation ecosystems like Smart Otaniemi and KEKO. Thank you and enjoy the event.
Great. Thank you, Sanna. And next, we will move to hearing these interesting keynotes. And during these keynote lectures, and I assume that during the whole webinar, you will hear many times these keywords. These two ecosystems, of course, we are so happy to building up these ecosystems. We are talking about a lot of ecosystems. We are talking about collaboration when we are joining ecosystems and building up ecosystems. Our context is smart buildings and sustainability, energy efficiency. We are, of course, both KEKO and Smart Otaniemi are part of smart cities, and we are having platforms. We are operating with the data, and so on. So there are a lot of these keywords you will anyway hear many times here. Now we move to the keynote speaks, and because we have a quite tight agenda here, we decided that we will have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So you can write down your questions there on a chat box, and we will take care of all the questions at the end of this event. So if you have a specific question for someone presenter of keynote lectures. We can take a look of those questions at the end. So we are now moving on. The first speaker is Tuomo Härkönen from Caverion. So Tuomo, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Jukka. It's my pleasure to be here and tell you about the Caverion solutions. So my name is Tuomo Härkönen. I'm heading the digital solutions development in Caverion. So we have two main industries there. So we have this building technology, and then we have the industrial solutions and services. Caverion is approximately 16,000 employees company, one of the biggest in the Northern European area. We are having 2.1 billion euros turnover, and we have something like 30,000 buildings under our remote services. So we have certain experience about the smart buildings already. But of course, from the development point of view, we can't say that you are ready now. So we are moving towards to the smart buildings. And okay, let's go to the presentation. So today we are talking about the big topic, how we are going to change the world and how to move towards to the smart and sustainable buildings. Okay, it was some delay there. So we have big open questions in front of us and those questions should be answered quite soon. So we need to change. We should be able to know how things are moving on when we are making these changes. How is the world 2030? Youngsters, they are really willing to know how we are able to survive. Really big questions, and that's why I would say that European Union and Finland has been activated quite nicely. So we have had earlier this 2020 targets for 2020, year 2020, and you can see easy to remember those reduction targets there. And okay, we were not so successful, especially in the energy efficiency area. We were not able to increase, get those targets, but otherwise it went quite nice. But now we have new targets for 2030. Formally, it went okay to say 30, but now we have justified, or European Union has been justified the targets, as you can see there, 40, 32, and 32.5. Those are the new justified targets, and based on these targets, we are really looking for the carbon neutrality in European level. 2050 should be carbon neutrality, but in Finland we want to be forerunner. So we have our target is in the year 2035. So very ambitious target for us. And finally, 2050 it should be something like more than 80% reduction in greenhouse gases. So quite ambitious targets, like I said, and I believe that it's now time to try to do something for those, to reach those targets. When we are in the building management and when we are talking about the buildings, it's very good to understand that what are the possibilities, and you can see from these numbers that the possibilities are really good ones for us. So 40% of European Union final energy is consumed in buildings, 30% of CO2 footprint is coming from buildings and from smart building technology and smart building services point of view. It's really interesting to see that it has been estimated that 20% of all CO2 emissions can be reduced by using digitalization, and that's what we are aiming for. When moving to the practical side, you can see that this is typical Finnish home when we are in Scandinavia and northern part of Europe. The heating is really energy intensive. 67% of everything is moving to or is used in heat for heating. Then of course, because we are Finns, sauna has been mentioned there, but only 5%. It's very good to know that you can still use your sauna because there's a lot of other benefits around that. Domestic hot water is there, and electrical equipment are also there, quite important topics. And when comparing the non-residential buildings to residential buildings, you can see that 40% of the energy intensity comes, or non-residential buildings are 40% more energy intensive than residential buildings. So it's a huge number, and it means, of course, that non-residential homes, they are really willing to take care about the energy consumption. So that might be a good explanation for that. And usual outcome when you are delivering smart building services is at least that we are able to save something like 5 to 10% in energy consumption. I have quite nice example for that. So this is the reality today. Okay. And then how the smart buildings can reduce energy. So we have 3 important areas there. So information management, which means that you should have individual smart monitoring and smart controls in place. That's for sure the one most critical element there. And secondly, you have this demand side flexibility. It has been discussed for a while that we should have that one, but if you do not have this smart building technology in place, then you are not able to do that demand side flexibility in a wise way. So it means in practice that you must be able to predict the demand response capability with energy storages and renewables. And if you have the smart technology in place, you are really capable to make those predictions. Otherwise, you are just guessing. And then finally, if you have some issues, it would be good to know beforehand what kind of issues is coming. So prescriptive maintenance and fault management should be in place also. And this kind of prescriptivity means that if something goes wrong, you should most probably get the alarm to your mobile phone that now you should do something, and we are really telling you that what you should do. It's not only an alarm, even though it is alarming you. And of course, the outcome of everything is that we are able to optimize energy efficiency with integrated renewable energy management and indoor comfort and well-being improvements. So indoor comfort is extremely important here. It's quite easy to save energy if you do not care about the indoor environment, comfort and well-being. So those things must go hand in hand. All right, so this is the typical way to describe the energy balance in buildings today. So we are consuming energy, we are purchasing energy, we are conducting energy to elsewhere, and typically today these things are managed in silos, which is not good. So it means that stakeholder needs do not meet. and it is really difficult to optimize if these systems are not talking to each others. And when we are moving to the near future, you can see that there will be certain ecosystems around of this area, and it's quite easy to estimate that there will be smart energy ecosystem, which is really important. Smart city ecosystem is there, and then smart building ecosystem. So if you are having those systems in place, and those systems can talk to each other through open APIs, then you are really able to manage the energy balance, and where to manage that. You are having digital marketplaces that you are able to justify the needs in real time, and based on those needs, the real-time optimization will be done in analyzing platforms. So I would say this is not so far at the moment. So we are really building anxiously these kind of platforms which are part of ecosystems. And our approach can be seen here. So how to achieve the smart building targets. So we have identified 3 or 4 steps here. So we have Caverion SRI consulting service, which is based on the European Commission European Building of Performance Directive. So in this service, we are analyzing the building's intelligence level and provides the customer specific recommendations. And when we have done that, then you should evaluate your real estate strategy and to see how we are willing to move on. What are our targets for the technological needs and smart services? And after that phase, when everything is clear, targets are there, we need to concretize the digital solutions level and automated analytics. And for that purpose, of course, it is needed to have this kind of digital platform that will utilize the automated analytics. And as an example of the functionality of that platform is that we have energy and power usage optimization, typically called demand response. Then we have indoor environmental quality there, improvements 2 times so important, and then the maintenance needs and predictions are part of this platform functionality. And when you have that in place, then you are able to move to the smart services and solutions area. And the value of the innovations are coming from the smart features combined to the best expertise, in our case in remote center. And finally, you need to have this kind of real-time visibility to see that how we are performing. If you do not have this kind of visibility, then you are not able to follow the critical KPIs. In our case, this energy performance monitoring has been solved in this way that we have earlier we called it customer portal. This is an application, quite a large application. And there you can see on one page quite easily your critical KPIs. You can see improvement actions based on observations, and you can see energy consumption, and so on and so on. You can drill down wherever you want to go. If you need to know more, then you just click the button and you can go to the next level. So a lot of data is behind of this view. So then we can move to the examples. First case is Veho, very well known in Finland, Mercedes-Benz dealer. They have 37 facilities under this contract, performance contract, and 176 1,000 square meters across the Finland, and they wanted to concentrate to their core business, and we were helping them then in this challenge. Of course, the user experience is very important when we are talking about this kind of customer, and energy savings have been achieved among the others via modernizations of lighting systems, upgrading and optimizing the BMS and HVAC systems. And based on these actions, we were able to achieve 14.4 kilowatt hours savings in energy past 3 years. 3,200 tons decrease in CO2 emissions. You can see comparable 30 million kilometers with the Mercedes-Benz A series. So quite impressive figures, and customers seems to be quite happy for these services. And finally, I have this Keva case. Keva is Finnish pension fund for municipalities. They have quite large portfolio, almost 52 billion euros portfolio with 110 residential and non-residential buildings, 1.2 million square meters, and they were looking for really the sustainability, how to improve their energy efficiency and reach the sustainability targets. They had really ambitious targets to reduce the energy and water consumption, and again the same kind of concept that we were continuously monitoring the energy efficiency together with the customer. We made energy surveys for each property, and we had PMS connected remote services, and finally we were able to get results like 6.5 kilowatt hours savings already during the first year operations, almost 6% decrease in electricity consumptions, and quite a lot of money was saved also at the same time, almost over €500,000. And in this case also customer seems to be quite happy for the results, because we were able to exceed our targets by 60% in the first year. So that was shortly what we are doing here in Caverion. So I hope that this was beneficial for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Tuomo. It was really interesting, and sounds like energy efficiency is really core of Caverion's business, and you had great examples of success stories that you have done with your customers. We are right on time. Thank you very much, Tuomo, and we move on, and next we will have Olli Salmela from Nokia telling their viewpoints on energy efficiency. So Olli, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Jukka. So my name is Olli Salmela from Nokia Bell Labs, and actually it's the research organization of Nokia. So we acquired a competitor, Alcatel-Lucent, some years back. So therefore we kind of adapted the Bell Labs at that time, and that's they have the Nokia Bell Labs. And I'm coming from the CTO part of the Bell Labs organization. So I have a small team there. We are studying liquid cooling. We are studying also batteries there. So we have a somewhat kind of energy focused team that we are running there. So also the Caverion mentioned about the sauna in Finland, and of course that's what you will see here. Liquid cooling is the lake by the sauna. So actually I'm located here. If you will see the block woods there, so behind me. So actually it's pretty close to the sauna right now. So in addition to working with Nokia, so side job also at Oulu and Aalto University, where I'm an adjunct professor. So I have somewhat this kind of academic background also, or academic hobby. So we are talking about the first liquid-cooled base station, and I try to explain about what it's all about and how it relates to the energy efficiency and the buildings and the smart buildings. But before we go there, maybe good to remind you of that. Of course, most of you will remember the Nokia phones, but currently the biggest volume product we have is the base station, and probably you have seen at least antennas there, either on the rooftops or on mastheads. It's around 7 million base stations globally that they are up and running. Of course, it's needed for you to make the phone call or to transmit the data from your mobile or to your mobile phone. So the thing is that I think at building level, of either the owner of the building and who is monitoring it, and or it may be the Caverian kind of company who is managing the building. But it's quite often that there are also others that are kind of using the building, like our customers, the operators. So they are placing their equipment there. And the thing is that actually until now, Nokia has more or less trying to just sell the product, and much of that, what happens then after, has been the responsibility of our customer or even a third company who is making the installations and maintenance and taking care of the installations and the location where it will be located. But of course, now we have been studying this thing a bit here and noticed that actually quite much of the energy that is used by the base station site is consumed by the base station cooling system there. In many cases, it is around 30%. Sometimes it's even more. So the thing is that our products, they kind of, most of the electrical energy is converted into heat. So the product itself, it's kind of conveying the heat out of the box, and then after it will be in room atmosphere, and from there it also has to be removed, either using air ventilation or even in certain cases kind of air conditioning unit, which are kind of power hungry. So looking things from the customer point of view, actually, so we have only the half of the solution. So we have made our products energy efficient, but we should also look at the big picture. So how to reduce the base station site level energy consumption, and that's one of the reasons we have studied the liquid cooling, because the liquid is consuming around some tens of watts. And that's much less than if you are thinking about AC or air ventilation systems there. So we have had this world's first pilot for liquid cooled base station, and over there what we did, we actually removed the cooling fins and cooling fans, so the air cooling units of our own products, and we also removed their air conditioning unit from the base. So we kind of moved from left to right. In addition to getting rid of much of the energy bill of the operator, our customer, so around 30%. So we also get rid of the noise, because the acoustic noise may be around 75 dBA, and considering that you are a repairman or doing some maintenance there over there, so it's kind of annoying. And also the residents of the building may be also disturbed by the noise. So at least two benefits there: it's the noiseless, and it's also using less power. And thirdly, there is also the possibility to plug into the building and make use of the waste heat. So there are different possibilities. You could plug into the district heating system. You may warm up the building locally. You may warm up the utility water. So there are ways to harvest to heat and effective there. It's like 4,000 more better than air, and there are also ways to make use of the waste heat. So this is pretty much what we did in our pilot. And actually, here is the building that we applied the liquid cooling for the first time in live network. So it was Elisa, a Finnish operator, and that used that together with us. And it's a student building, Helsinki City Center, called Talo, where this experimental system was up and running. And it was very important to be there because we wanted to make sure that what things that we did on demo phases, what we did on proof of concepts, what we did measure on laboratory, we could verify that everything that we measured as we expected was really the case. Of course, if you think about our own products, it's also a good thing that we are running the product itself cooler, because then that improves the reliability and once again reducing the amount of site visits, and also as there are no air filters anymore. So once again, we can reduce the amount of maintenance visits to the base site. Actually, if you wonder how the actual base station looks like, so the partial answer is on the top right corner there. You that our products. This is actually a radio unit. Next to the antennas. So they are anyhow are built. The electronics is protected by this kind of aluminum mechanics. And usually, as I mentioned, they are air cooled. So, but in this case, we removed air cooling blowers, and you can see there the blue serpentine. There, it's and on each end there is a liquid connector there. They are tripless connectors, so you can actually do the maintenance while running all the equipment there. So you can do the hot swap. So the idea is that the mechanics is connected to the hot running components, and the serpentine-like shape is due to the fact it's kind of covering all the hot running components while running through the mechanics. So so we have been, of course, we kind of successful already that we were making this happen at first time in the world, but we also awarded by Nokia the quality award in 2018. And the following year, one of the bigger customers, AT&T, gave us supplier award for the liquid cooling. And actually this year we got also quality innovation prize for the liquid cooling. How this relates to the energy efficiency and sustainability and Nokia corporate level targets, I try to give an answer by the science-based targets. So we have been committed to reduce the scope 3, so the use phase of our products, CO2 emissions. We are aiming to reduce the emissions by 75% by the year 2030. And I believe if we are using liquid cooling, we can cover most of the target by this kind of product. So as I mentioned, that was the world's first liquid cooled base station that we launched in 2018, and actually this spring we also launched the 5G. Of course, you know that the 5G is up and coming. So once again, together with Elisa, we launched this world's first 5G liquid cooled base station, and that's located in Pasila in Elisa headquarters. And of course, if you think about it, it's collaboration between Nokia and Elisa, so we are kind of supporting each other. And also, Elisa's vision is to become carbon neutral by the year, actually 2020, so this year. So their targets are also very well aligned with what we are doing with the liquid cooling here. And once again, as I mentioned, that basically 30% energy expense reduction by replacing air cooling with liquid cooling, and also the possibility to reuse the waste heat, like is the case also in this Elisa quarters. So the waste heat is used to warm up the building. Even though already we are working together with Elisa, so we wanted to kind of expand the discussion and wanted to have we participated this carbon footprint project that was actually also supported by Business Finland, and VTT was the key player there, and with the help of VTT and working together with them, we could also quantify the measures what we did in terms of carbon footprint. And actually there's a handbook also printed out of this carbon footprint methodology. We have published also some scientific papers as well. There's material on available for this solution, but very shortly to describe what we can see here is that the baseline is on the left hand, so the carbon footprint with conventional air cooling for base stations, and the right hand side it's basically on top there is the carbon footprint, and that's the 30% that we can reduce the footprint by reducing the amount of energy that is used for the cooling. So moving from air cooling to liquid cooling saves around 1,200 kilogram CO2 equivalent per year. And more, we are also taking into account that we can also reuse the waste heat. So we can replace for example, the district heating by using the waste heat. So then the impact is even bigger. So it's 80% that we can reduce the carbon footprint. So this is also, of course, showing that it's very important that we work together with our customers, but also those who are the owner of the building, because we are talking about relatively small amounts of energy. So base station power consumption is usually from 2 to 10 kilowatts, so not very large. So transmitting this kind of small amount of energy is not very reasonable to do. So it's better to use it locally. So therefore, it's kind of natural to work with companies who are constructing buildings or who are maintaining the buildings. So I think therefore the KEKO network is very useful for us as well. So we started this work, of course, before KEKO started, and now we are very happy that we have found the right persons and right companies to talk about this kind of utilization of the waste heat, and moreover, of course, we have had kind of a very extensive network of sensors in the building for the measurements, for the flow measurements, and so forth. And also, therefore, we are looking forward to somewhat kind of integrate what we have anyhow built in for the liquid cooling monitoring and management system. So that might be part of the building level system. And finally, I would like to just show you the picture of our new CEO, Pekka Lundmark. Actually, he's coming from Fortum, so Energy Corporation, so he has a nice background, especially if you think about what we are talking about today, the building level and the energy corporations and collaboration and smart buildings. And the corporate level message has been quite consistently, even before Pekka joined us again, that we are committed to the science-based targets. Nokia is also committed to restrict the global warming to 1.5 centigrade. And actually, the measures that we quite frequently has been mentioned in Nokia press releases is one thing is the changing from FPGA components to Nokia ReefShark system-on-chip components, which are less power hungry than FPGAs, but also the liquid cooling, which is very effective in reducing the CO2 emissions of our customers. So I think this is a really interesting journey, and of course learning to myself, of course, and really trying to better understand that even if we are just kind of delivering, bluntly to kind of say that we are just delivering the box to our customers, so we now see that there is a much bigger environment and ecosystem where we should kind of adapt. And of course we will do our homework regarding our own products, but have to understand a bit more deeply also the environment where we are placing our products, or our customers is placing the products, and try to help them and the whole ecosystem to reduce their CO2 emissions. And I believe we have a good start for that one. And finally, there is also a link to CNBC, who made a video on our approach. So if you have the time, you may have a look on that one later on. So, and of course, any questions after the final presentation and the panel discussion is more than welcome. But at this time, I would like to hand over to the next presenter. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Olli. Really interesting to hear Nokia's viewpoint, and you have done a lot of good job there with the energy efficiency on base stations. We have here already first questions, so great that our audience is active there, and let's take a look of these questions at the end of this webinar in a Q&A session. Let's move on. Our last keynote speaker is Mr. Ken Dooley from Granlund. So please, Ken, floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. So my name is Ken Dooley. I'm a technology director in Granlund. We are an engineering company who specialize in buildings. We design buildings, and we have software for buildings, and we also do kind of consulting on buildings after they've been constructed. And we have about 1,000, just over 1,000 people, mostly based in Finland. I'm going to talk today about kind of user experience. It's often one of the kind of forgotten pillars of smart building. I'm going to try and explain what that is. And in the context of today, I'm going to really talk about trying to kind of show how some data is more reusable than other. That if we're going to capture information by installing a sensor or an app or something like this, that we really need to be quite careful in how we do it. There are many ways how selecting the right component or a piece of infrastructure, or by motivating people to use a solution, can really mean that the data that comes from it is super reusable. And I'll show that a little bit today, and I'll show, for example, some of the complexity of our smart building or our intelligent building ecosystem. There's a lot of different competing technologies, and this is again another example of the reason why we're working together and why ecosystems are so important. So I'll start then by kind of giving a quick feeling of why user experience and kind of smart buildings, kind of how they differ. So sometimes when we talk about smart building technology, definitely from our background in Granlund, we think about is it temperature measurement or space use measurement or noise sensors? Is it something like leak detection? Where when we work as user experience experts, it's much more talking about things like if somebody wants to find a room and book a room, then is there a nice user interface for them to do that? Can they click the booking mechanism with just one button, or do they have to click many buttons through something like Outlook? Or quite often we get told we're not so interested in the CO2 levels in the building. We're really interested in something practical, like can you show me the length of the lunch queue? I only have 30 minutes for lunch. And I'd be really interested to know right now, will I go, is the lunch queue long or is the lunch queue short? So kind of really practical elements that actually people like Siemens call, creating a friction-free environment in buildings. taking away some of the kind of annoyances or kind of small everyday things that frustrate people. And I'll kind of show one of the reasons why this is becoming so relevant, or so much focus has been put on it over the last couple of years, are reports like this report from the kind of World Green Building Council, which kind of really points out, and these numbers are obviously kind of not perfect, but gives a feeling that, you know, staff costs in office buildings, for example, are 90%. So any investments that can help make staff more productive, kind of energy maybe is dwarfed compared to the kind of, let's say, things like staff costs and productivity and kind of employee satisfaction. But the good news for us is that we can use the kind of user experience software and solutions that are paid for by other people than the real estate or energy people, and it's outside their budget. It's coming more from kind of human resources. It's coming more in large campuses from things like campus experience. I know Aalto University has a campus encounters budget for helping people to kind of to get around and bump into each other on the campus. So we can really kind of piggyback on some of the user experience solutions and kind of reuse them for let's say the benefit of making the building more operationally functional or more energy efficient. And this is one thing that our role in Granlund as kind of, let's say, engineering experts in buildings, it's one thing that we've kind of had to kind of learn how to do, because it was something that was really missing from our projects and our customers wanted. One example here then is actually just last year, we worked on the Nokia campus in Karaportti in Espoo. We were kind of deploying or project managing other people's smart apps on the site. We came in as smart building experts, but the customers immediately knew they wanted some kind of user experience solutions. The focus was on making it a nicer place to work. The focus was also on collaboration. I really don't know how that works right now post COVID-19, so that's one thing we really have to look at again. But outside of that, the focus was really on kind of these things and in reducing space as well. The main kind of smart office apps, one of the main one was kind of showing where the free spaces are in buildings, showing where your colleagues are if they want to have their location on for other people, kind of booking spaces really quickly with one click, and then finding free spaces and finding desks and finding colleagues and searching, having a search mechanism where you could find and be directed to things. The kind of really simple user interface kind of looks like this. You can see where the red X's are, they're the desks that are booked. You can see the kind of green rooms are free, and there's a really nice kind of UI and understanding of what's happening in the building. The data was collected with smartphones and laptops, and the smartphones and laptops which had this solution on them kind of spoke to iBeacons, and it was a really kind of software dominant approach. We put some iBeacons around the building, but there wasn't people counting cameras or sensors or anything like this in the building. Again, the main driver was just people wanted to find each other, people wanted to quickly find a free desk, and people wanted to quickly find a free meeting room. So this kind of user experience and creating a friction-free environment really created some really interesting data, which I'll show in a moment, that actually helps manage the space much better as well. The solution was also deployed on the phones. And this was kind of a really nice solution that kind of worked really well. And I'll show in a moment the software dominant element of it made it really efficient and made the data really reusable. Another kind of user experience example from that site was, like I said a moment ago, things like lunch queues. On the left, you can kind of click the Osta button to buy food from your desk and read the menus. And then you can kind of go and pick it up with where you've paid in the phone app. And then it really kind of shows the different food varieties and kind of how busy they are. Green being not busy to red being kind of busy. So you can kind of optimize your time when you go down to the restaurant. In our context for the last couple of years, the kind of best definition I've been using for kind of wrapping user experience is that it should really save people in buildings time. It should help them to be healthier, or to live a more sustainable lifestyle, or to be, let's say, safer. It should, where possible, kind of provide more choice. It doesn't have to be 20% better. It just needs to provide more choice of the kind of services. So if that's an office building, is there a quiet zone to work in, or a coffee zone, or is there meeting rooms that are specifically good for collaboration? So really having the kind of services or the options on site that kind of give people options of what they want to do. And then tricky for us as engineers who always want to kind of complicate things but make them twice as good as it was before. There's a real focus on making these solutions super easy to use. Not everyone is so interested in technology. Some people kind of give up using the solution the second it's kind of tricky to use. So in order to kind of absorb the learning curve, we really have to kind of make these solutions kind of simple. Like the one I showed in Nokia, there's a whole load of different smart office solutions on the market. Actually, I'm researching these in Aalto University as well. I think we're studying maybe 33 or 34 with Laura Remes. Here's an example of kind of 28. I just pulled off the study. There's some Finnish solutions like Tieto's Empathic Building or SteerPath, or Rapal have a solution as well. There's Flowscape in Sweden. There's Siemens Comfy. So there's lots of different solutions here that kind of collect the data in different ways. But I guess the kind of lesson from smart building and from really kind of technical smart building people is to really kind of be curious about these kind of solutions and understand how efficiently they kind of capture information that's really valuable. So to kind of show an example of that and to kind of show the kind of reusability of the data, maybe one example is to compare. On the left, we have an image showing a kind of desk sensor. And on the right, we have the kind of the smartphone app that we deployed in Nokia. The nice thing about the desk sensor is that it's really low privacy issues. It is a little bit expensive because it's a kind of hardware solution. You need to put a piece of software under every desk. There are some limitations that someone isn't sitting in close enough to it, and it doesn't count some people. But it is quite limited in the information it captures. Compared to the Smart Office app, which really anonymously collects information on where people are in the building. It's really safe. It can't record any information on who has been around. If a team is too small, it can record maybe a member on this team has sat at this desk today. But if the team is too small, then it can only record the information on that department level. So the information is really safe. And it really did seem to solve the trouble that the employees were having, saying, I find it hard to find a desk to sit in the area I want to sit, or I find it hard to find a meeting room quickly when I'm running for a Skype meeting. And when you solve a kind of problem that exists, then people are much more readily interested in kind of using the technology. So if I compare the different ways they collect information, then, for example, relative to the desk sensor, the Smart Office app, let's say, it comes with a really nice user interface for people to interact with the building. Often they come with kind of indoor navigation and wayfinding, so you can find your way around the building. And often they come, or it's easy to add kind of access with a smart lock and a smartphone. Another thing that the kind of smart apps offer is actually any feedback that is sent through the app. Because the iBeacons are recording its location, the feedback is really efficient. If people are saying they're cold, or teams are saying they're stressed, or people say there's a broken lock on this door, then any feedback they give through the app is really tightly located on the floor plan, and it's much easier to fix then, and much easier to kind of follow up on. Similarly, from a service point of view, the phone app, which are these kind of orange boxes, really help the kind of smart maintenance, because if the request or the problem has been tagged with a location, and if there is indoor navigation in the building, then the kind of smart maintenance people can really quickly see where the broken light bulb is, or something like that. And then other things, which are the orange text in the white box, can be done by both any kind of space efficiency information. So kind of cleaning on demand, the restaurants preparing food based on how many people are in the building today, or really looking at space efficiency or floor level energy or floor level indoor air quality if you have the sensors for those things. I guess then, to kind of moving on with some of the kind of issues with the industry, is that there's a lot of competing technology. I'm going to quickly kind of run through, even if you understand what are the kind of most important technology from a smart building perspective, and there's a lot of different things here which don't offer a really clear value of I must have this technology or I must have another technology. We find often that people are expected as building owners to kind of connect to the smart city infrastructure and then to kind of provide really good user experience, and then to also do other things such as, you know, consider predictive maintenance or should I be using blockchain for my real estate? So there's a lot of different competing technologies. And this is why we've seen actually quite a low investment in smart building over the last couple of years, and then why we're having to be almost inventive in using the data that's coming over out of the user experience solutions kind of to replace maybe some of the shortfall in the investments that's happening on the smart building side. And really, it's with the feedback we're getting is because noise sensors or turning on the lights with our voice, they're all really nice technologies. They all have a certain cost, but they don't really kind of change the world. They're not must-haves. So our main lessons then have been that, you know, user experience and the smart building budgets are kind of separate. They kind of overlap in the data they create. So actually, in really focusing on the user experience can actually kind of reduce the smart building budget quite a lot. And we find that really focusing on the user experience really helps some of our customers. So actually, often the kind of value created is higher, they're more visible for the end users, they're lower cost because they're, let's say, they're software dominant. The available budget is higher because you can tap into kind of HR and health and well-being and experience budgets. The reusability of the data is higher again because of the way it's collected. And actually, the range of options in terms of the competing technology is lower. So the last thing to show then is, I think the way we see it in Granlund then is, from a design perspective, we understand the kind of smart element quite well. We have experience in the user experience element. And then the dream for us then is that during the kind of operational life cycle of the building and including the guarantee period, that we really design the smart building elements and the user experience elements so they don't only solve the kind of smart building and user experience problems that they're really aiming at, but that the data can be reused to really look at the kind of energy efficiency or the kind of functional performance of the building during its life cycle. Okay, that was that from me. If there's any questions, please ask later on. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ken. Really interesting how for example, that user experience, that's exactly what we have done in Gecko Ecosystem as well, that we started with collecting the user needs and trying to develop something related on a real user needs, not like a technology push that you develop something and get to the market and so on. So really interesting. Thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, now it's a couple of minutes over 3 o'clock, and it's time to move on in our agenda towards the panel discussion. And now we have a couple of new friends here with us here, and maybe we start this panel discussion with a short introduction round, because there might be also in audience a couple of new guys came to the line. So first of all, this panel is talking about the same issues that we have had in our keynotes, and we are talking about first about the collaboration and the ecosystems. Then we move on the data and data-based businesses, and we close this panel discussion to talk about a little bit about the future, that how we see that what is happening there in energy efficiency and smart buildings sector in the future. So we start, like, first of all, my name is Jukka Hemilä, and I'm coming from VTT. I'm the coordinator of Gecko Ecosystem, and that's my relation to smart buildings. So if we take a look of who we have here, and shortly, if you all tell your name, organization, and your role, and then a couple of words about what is your view on smart buildings and energy efficiency and sustainability. So if we start there, Mimu Airaksinen, please.
Hi. Hi, thank you. My name is Mimo Araksinen and I come from Finnish Association of Civil Engineers, so really, and I'm their CAO. And my connection to smart buildings and smart cities is actually that we are in the real focusing quite a lot on sustainability and especially that how technologies are helping us to create sustainable and low carbon future.
Good, great. Then we have Ken on the list.
Yeah, so Ken Dooley, I'm a technology director in Groundland. We're also part of the smart Otaniemi ecosystem. I think, as I mentioned in the kind of presentation, I think the real thing we've seen is almost a value crisis in smart buildings. There's a lot of competing technology without a real hierarchy of must-haves. And then, okay, next time, if I have more budget, I'll invest in this. So really, that's why we've had to be creative in really making every single installation work really hard for itself. Access control maybe has to turn off the lights when the last person left or something like that, or really looking at the kind of user experience element or other people's budgets like the HR budget. So really kind of trying to accelerate the smart building revolution like we thought it was going to come 5 years ago, which really hasn't come. I think that's the challenge we've been facing.
Great, thanks. And then next one, Tuomo.
Okay, my name is Tuomo Härkönen and I'm heading the digital solutions development in Caverion. So Caverion vision is to improve the sustainability by utilizing smart technology. So that's why I would say that we are at the core of our vision now when we are here. And today we are really building the digital platform, which is the combination of automation, VMS systems, and cloud-based services and user interfaces, and quite much of things are related to that.
Great. Okay, then we have next one is Olli Salmela.
Okay, so my name is Olli Salmela, coming from Nokia Bell Labs. So our interest in Bell Labs is on liquid cooling and battery technologies, and actually both of them are potentially could be integrated to a building infrastructure and smart buildings. Of course, then there's this Nokia Enterprise part, and their interest is anyhow on verticals and they can provide this kind of in-building connectivity and server services.
Good. Then we have also Helena Saren.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Helena Saren is the name, and I'm heading the Smart Energy Finland program at Business Finland. And I'm personally interested, and my passion is to actually to scale up the Finnish innovations and ecosystems and solutions on a global level, and get, well, so to say, the best return of investment we can from the investment we are doing in Finland for the innovations. So that is really something. And then your question, going back to that one about the buildings, when you're thinking from Finland's strongholds, especially in energy field, obviously, thinking about low carbonizing the electrification, then thinking about smart and flexible grids, and then also circular economy of energy. So I think that the buildings should, could, and will play a more significant role in the future. So that is an area we should definitely include more heavily into our innovation schemes, what we are doing in Finland.
Great. So welcome everyone here to this panel session, and let's start with that first topic. And by the way, yeah, I have to remind that that if your audience is having any questions or comments, use that chat box, and at the end we will take a look on those questions, as many that we have time. Now there's, I think, 4 questions at the moment, so great. Okay, let's start with the collaboration and ecosystems. Like we are living on a time that there's ecosystems everywhere, and you have platforms everywhere. Sometimes it's even like synonyms that the words platforms and ecosystems, and for example, in our Gecko ecosystem, we are having an approach that we are trying to integrate SMEs to offering something unique for the platform and for the ecosystem, and doing a new kind of services for the building users and buildings and that kind of thing. So we believe, at least in Gecko, that we cannot do that kind of thing alone. So first topic is about how you see the smart building sector, energy efficiency and flexibility on building level. That is there a need for platforms and is there a need for platform-based ecosystems? And if we start, for example, Tuomo, you mentioned on your presentation about those 3 different kind of ecosystems that we are having: smart city ecosystem, building ecosystem, energy ecosystems. So why not alone? Why Caverion is doing something like an ecosystemic approach? Why not doing this alone?
Well, very fascinating idea that we are doing this alone, but it might be quite a challenging thing. So I think that this platform-based ecosystem thinking, that's really a logical continuation for collaboration in the future. So still, basic question remains to be that how we are able to help facility managers and building owners to make right decisions to optimize buildings overall efficiency. And today, typically, a lot of data is available to users. They are lost of the data, precisely the meaningful data, which supports decision making. For example, optimize cooling and heating energy usage, which might be difficult in the shopping centers without sub-optimization, because there are several stakeholders who are responsible for the coolings and other parties are responsible for the heatings. So this kind of sub-optimization is not a very fruitful discussion from the owner's point of view. So I would say that 5 years ago, facility managers' user interface were built on top of this kind of closed specific purpose platform, so to say, and even showing the real-time data from multiple sources was extremely difficult. But today we have the technical capabilities to build scalable collaborative platforms which are forming the core of the ecosystems. And now we are coming to the point that we are having these standard APIs which are able to communicate, and we can able to arrange the communication in minutes instead of large communication projects. So that's the key element there. Of course, we need to understand that the data models are still needed. It can't be so that we have a lot of data which is not meaningful. We must have a meaning for the data. And for example, Caverion facility management platform, data transfer, or it is transferring data between thousands of different platforms today to support facility managers' decision making. And from the platform, you can see immediately possible issues and you can get recommendations for improvements. So maybe that was shortly why we are really willing to have and why we are really need to have this platform type of thinking.
Yeah, good to hear. Yeah, I was thinking like if only talk about a little bit about Nokia. Like of course Nokia have been like a global player already decades. So in your business you have done a lot of ecosystemic development, and you are part of, I don't know how many ecosystems you are taking part, but and it was interesting to hear during your presentation about that that you are even helping Elisa to get their target on carbon neutrality in this year already. So on it sounds that you are like, when you are joining in an ecosystem, you are really taking care of your ecosystem partners and helping them. What about that in a building sector, and you are developing connectivity for buildings? How you see that kind of ecosystems? What is the Nokia's approach on ecosystems in building sector and energy efficiency in buildings?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm not sure if I can fully answer, but anyhow, there are some thoughts that I would like to share with you. So of course, of course, if you think about the underlying thing that we all companies and all people, of course, should contribute to this climate change, and each of the companies do have their needs to reduce the CO2 um, footprint, and there, of course, it's kind of natural that we work together with our customers that are the, let's say, the closest neighbors in a way, and that's of course, and we do have our own challenges and our own target as well to reduce this CO2 emissions. But when it comes to the building infrastructure, I think it was kind of something kind of natural that we fell into this kind of, as I mentioned already before, that before we joined KEKO infrastructures, that we needed to start talking with energy corporations and the building owners and building managers and so forth, because we wanted to get somehow reuse the waste heat, and that's definitely Nokia's expertise. So we need definitely the players on the building, on smart building and energy corporations, because they really know how these things are done. It's not our core business in a way, and it's pretty much the same also. Where we need help also is that on building level, that we do have the backup batteries, for example, for the base stations. The same applies to data centers, as well as we have talked with Kone, and also they have their backup batteries for the elevators, escalators, and at building level as well, many of the system there have their own backup batteries. So it makes a lot of sense to somehow start to talk with, if we could somehow integrate this kind of system in a smart way. And then, of course, as if you kind of try to answer also the other parts, so we try to learn from the others, but also where we can probably help is, of course, the connectivity, the Nokia Enterprise Business Unit, which is also participating to KEKO. So we do have this private LTE network, so that can be there already at the construction site, and then after as well. So I think that's one of the things where we can be of help, and also they do have the server approach there, that the data that is collected by some APIs from the building, that can be analyzed using our products there. So, but of course they also are as eager to learn as well. So not saying that we would know everything, but I think they're both something we can learn, and something we hopefully can kind of help you with, especially in the terms of connectivity.
Great. Okay. Like some it's like natural that ecosystems are here now and then. So we need to join or develop our ecosystems. Let's talk about a little bit about the openness of ecosystems. So that what do you think about the openness? Do we need some kind of leading company who makes the rules that how to join in ecosystems, like, and especially when talking about the platform economies, so that there's some quite often there's a one owner of the platform, and then they control the platform, and they invite the new members, or they are saying the rules that how we play in a around the platform. So that So I was thinking that which kind of practices and policies can help companies transit themselves towards the collaboration in ecosystems. And then I was thinking that Business Finland, for example, that Helena, when Business Finland is a funding organization, but on the other hand, you are really supporting Finnish companies to entering in a global markets. What about from Business Finland point of view, that how you see that how easy is for Finnish companies to join in a global ecosystems and or even create own ecosystems? What do you think about which kind of practices or policies can help Finnish companies to join on global ecosystems or developing our own?
That's, I have to say honestly, it's pretty large question. We could talk about that about several hours, but I just would like to highlight a couple of issues that firstly is the end client's point of view. And especially when we are talking about buildings. So recently when we have been, well, when we practically managed to meet people face to face in the countries, but now obviously it's by way of the webinars and Skypes, but it was more efficient when face to face. So especially in the building sector, the local players, property owners, ministries, and so forth were definitely interested of new technologies, new digital solutions related to buildings, and not only energy efficiency, but also more or less about the resource efficiencies. And there can be, of course, individual service provider providing those solutions, but more and more the end clients, they want to have a holistic solution. And that is, of course, easier from their point of view. And then also they do not have to take the technological risk, for instance, how to integrate all the different solutions and service providers on one platform. And that is very important reason why we need to have these test beds like Smart Otaniemi and so forth. But anyways, the message from the end clients in many cases is that they need holistic solutions. And that's why we definitely need the ecosystem. Then thinking about our companies when they are participating in the ecosystems, and of course, each and every company get something new out of the ecosystem, something when they are participating in that, for instance, test bed. But one of the features why the ecosystems are anyway generated is to develop something value added jointly. And then when we jointly develop something value added, then obviously there needs to be 1, 2, or 3 organizations, but anyway, somebody should take the lead in capitalizing that and taking it to the scaling up it on a global level. And that's why definitely we would need leader or leaders, because quite often also the ecosystems can lead to that situation that the outcome is that there are 1, 2, or 3 offering packages created under that theme or something. But anyway, somebody should take that into their sales portfolio and start selling it. And in order to be have good results in this cooperation, the openness between the companies is definitely needed, because we can't create something value added, something more innovativeness, if companies are not opening, if they are really co-creating together something new. So that kind of ideas came to my mind.
Yeah, good to hear. Like that, and fully agree that kind of holistic approach, and like already Tuomo was also saying about the scalability of solutions. That's really helps. That if you develop something that is scalable, it's easier to join even in different kind of global ecosystems when we. But yes, continue, please.
1 minute extra, sorry. And then also one of our core issues what we are doing actually in Business Finland is also this Invest in Finland activity. So obviously we want to attract foreign companies to come and establish their activities, for instance, research and development center into Finland. And the test beds and ecosystems is a very good way to attract and make our country more attractive for the foreign companies to come here and play together with our companies and organizations. And also sometimes, and quite often actually, these foreign players could also then pave the way for the internationalizations, because they could be actually the one who is selling it in the international markets. So that added on.
Yes, that's a really important viewpoint, so that also companies outside Finland are coming here, so that if they are really having great solutions, why do we need to develop something similar here? It's great to have also international companies to joining Finnish markets by that way. Great. What about Ken? You have a lot of global experience, and you have a lot of experience about building sector and energy sector globally. How you think about what are the differences joining in a ecosystems, and especially like if talking about platform-based ecosystems in Finland or globally? Is there any differences?
Yeah, I think in general there's a lot to do with the maturity of the idea and the maturity of the platform. I think we've seen a lot in the last 5 to 10 years, especially in the building industry, technology-wise, where people traded on lock-in for a long time. People had their systems in buildings and nothing was interoperable. And if you wanted to put new technology in that building, either it was completely separate, never to be joined, or you had to buy their product. So I think, with everything opening up over the last 5 to 10 years, it's become much more kind of flexible, that you don't have to be a big player. One of my favorite local companies are Mount Kelvin, which, if you want to kind of simplify it, were a couple of coders from Reactor who basically became a lighting control company overnight. They didn't have factories or a massive legacy, but they could kind of occupy that really traditional position just with software. So I think, but I do think there are some of the smart grid ecosystem ideas maybe that have originated from Germany. If they want to come to Finland, I think because the concepts are so mature, you're kind of jumping on their train, let's say, and maybe they set the rules. But I do think that in general, all the things we're talking about today, we still are kind of growing the cake. We're still kind of defining the value proposition of all the different stakeholders. And because of that, I don't think you need to be a big player. I still think it's really just kind of, we always say kind of, we'll grow the cake as much as possible now, and we'll decide kind of what slice we want in future. And even Tuomo recently, we had a big chat about kind of digital twins. And we're very open when we speak, and Tuomo was very generous with his time that day as well. And I think we're in this discussion, we're still at that stage. We're still at a kind of embryonic stage where it isn't clear that these solutions are fully needed. And if they are fully needed, they're more expensive, let's say, than the value they're creating. Or the complexity to deliver them is kind of too much by one kind of person to kind of take on board. So we're still at this kind of communication of all the value it can create for all the different stakeholders, which is why, again, we have to bring in the kind of human resources and the kind of campus experience people in our projects, and the kind of health and well-being budget. And we have to almost kind of corral that and kind of bring that in order to create a smart building that we think kind of really works together really well. There isn't the understanding of the value or the budget to just do it separately. So I really think there's a huge amount of openness right now, because we're still in this kind of embryonic stage. And with the kind of digitalization, things are moving so fast that you kind of really need to leverage your resources. You can't kind of hide in your bedroom or in your head office for 2 years and come out with a kind of world-beating product. Maybe some people can, but the vast majority cannot. So with all of those drivers, we see a lot of openness.
Yeah, Good to hear. Like if it's nowadays there's a lot of openness. That's great to hear. Like that's the key in ecosystem development. But also on the other hand, like if it's open, but like at least on my feeling, it is that. If you are joining into the ecosystem, you really have to have some kind of long-term plan, so that it's not only that you just go there and get out. Like at least that's my feeling. That ecosystemic approach is something that that companies are thinking about. That okay, we will enter there, we will stay there, we will collaborate. What about that kind of long-term investment and practices related on that? What about me? What do you think about constructing and building sector companies that how they are investing on a collaboration and long-term partnerships in ecosystems? What do you think about the status
Yes, I
of
mean,
companies nowadays?
yes, exactly, and that's really good point. And I think it's kind of like, I think Ken pointed out that, I mean, this is so actually big issue. I mean, we need to cut down our emissions, and we need to do it in a sustainable way, and we need to do that in a way that people feel well-being and kind of like comfort and security in their buildings and workplaces. So that is why actually that companies are also seeking kind of like this type of like long-term partnerships where you can trust on the quality and kind of like that the people are delivering what was agreed. So that type of kind of like trusting in the ecosystems, but also at the same time that we can keep up in the speed of the development, and there is coming new actors on the field at the same time. So kind of like the ecosystems also, they need to be open in a way that you can always get the best creators for your ecosystem as well. So in that sense, it's kind of like partially it's long term, and it's kind of like you want to play with the good actors and with the actors you can trust, and they can really deliver the value and create the sustainability and create really the impact. But also that you need to be all the time kind of like open for new actors and new solutions. So it's kind of like at the same time you have two plays in that way.
Yeah. All right, good. Thank you very much. Now, actually, time is running. I think that we need to move to the next topic, which is the data-based businesses. So we have talked about the collaboration and ecosystems and platforms. And in a platform, there's a data, of course, and there's a like people are saying that data is a new oil, but then the value, people are saying also that the value is coming when you integrate different data streams, that your own data alone, it might not be so great then, but when you are integrating it with some others' data, then the value is coming from there. So what about data sharing in building management and energy efficiency? Like first of all, is there enough data, and if there's enough data, what to do? Can you reuse the data? Like I was thinking about when Ken, you mentioned on your presentation about that reusability of data. What do you mean about the reusability in your studies, and is there enough data, and how to use that data again and again and again?
Yeah. I think there's so many kind of use cases and so many needs. So definitely that we should be doing more with the data we have already. So someone like SmartVatten or Fixovesi, who have really interesting kind of water consumption meters. Sometimes we're really interested in speaking with them, and we have a pilot with them in Kuopio, because water consumption is actually a good kind of replacement for when people are in the building. So if I'm looking at electricity consumption, and I don't know anything about the kind of schedules. Is it busy on a Friday afternoon, or is it a school that's occupied on a Saturday, or in the evening time for adult classes or whatever? The water consumption is a really good kind of fake signal, or what we call a proxy for that kind of information. So immediately, someone like Fixovesi are really interesting to us to kind of layer that on top. But there's so many different scenarios, even something as simple as an up-to-date floor plan of a building. So often buildings are renovated, or in shopping centers, a new tenant comes in and they merge 3 spaces into one, or they move a toilet core. And it happens multiple times, in a 3 or 4 year period, and the drawings are out of date immediately. And there's so many different kind of needs and stakeholders, the kind of leasing agents and even the cleaners or the facility managers who need those drawings. And most of the time, they are all updated, if updated, kind of separately in everyone's individual systems. So we're not even good at having a central repository for the kind of geometry of the building. That's something around the kind of digital twins that maybe might come out, although the digital twin, we could have almost jumped to a level of complexity before we've even solved something as simple as 2D floor plans. But there's very many things that we definitely could be reusing more. There's much more data we need to really optimize, but the stuff that we have and the measurements that are taken, we're really not reusing enough, and getting better all the time, but lots of work to do.
Yeah, okay, good to hear. Yeah. Okay, well, I was thinking during the Tuomo's presentation, Tuomo, you mentioned about the information management, that it's a area where a smart building reduces energy use, and you are doing smart monitoring and control. So which kind of data you are collecting there, and is there enough data, and are you doing reuse of data on that sense?
No, password again is the platform. So we need to have a platform, and today in Caverion we are collecting a huge amount of data from several sources. Only in Finland we got 1.2 million alarms from Finnish customers, DMS systems. So majority of all alarms are taken care of remotely, and of course it saves a lot of customers money. This is a kind of old story, but from the reusability point of view, customers are typically more and more interested to utilize the data which we have collected already, and they are even willing to share this data for further analytics. For example, the air handling units, they are typically censored by the OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. And nowadays, the same sensor data can be used for advanced analytics of the open interfaces. Again, if you have a platform, then you have an open interface, and tada, everything is there immediately. So earlier it was the case that each and every vendors, they had their own closed black boxes, and it was not the case that you were able to use the sensor data or whatever data again. So now we are in the situation that we are really breaking the walls.
Yeah, good. Okay, I was thinking about the time schedule. I think that we need to move on our third topic, which is the future. So if we're talking about a little bit about the energy sector and smart building sector future, like there, actually, like Tuomo's presentation, we already saw those pictures about the governmental views and requirements or ideas how Finland is achieving the carbon neutrality by 2035, and actually Tuomo was mentioning 2030 year, that already on 2030 we need to have something to be done. But what about that kind of carbon neutrality and energy efficiency, the future of that in future buildings? From your perspective, how you think, what companies need to do on that? Like Helena, how you see? You are talking a lot of with different Finnish industries, as Business Finland is operating with the whole Finnish industries. What Finnish companies need to do on carbon neutrality and those topics that government is setting for industries?
I think the low carbonity as such is very, very interesting issue, and it's also very crucial and important for the Finnish industries. As anyway, this development is taking place on a global level, and it actually touches all the major Finnish industrial sectors, and also the major of these Finnish industrial sectors are also our main exporters. So anyway, in that way we have to take really, we have to be very cautious and look after where this development takes us. And for your information, tomorrow there's going to be a published a study prepared for us by Gaia Consulting, saying that between 2006 and 2019, Business Finland has funded about 2 billion euros projects related to low carbonity. And the starting point has pretty much been the energy efficiency issues. But now we definitely see that the trend is going to more these cross-industrial sectors, and that includes service providers, digital companies, and so forth. So I think that in Finland, we are capable of searching new kind of, I could say even use the word mind-blowing solutions when we can cooperate really well with our research and development organizations, our public and private operators. But it needs for the future even intensified cooperation amongst the various players. And then also what we need to do and the companies need to do is really to focus on the internationalization. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen without resources. So they really need to invest in the internationalization, and also working quite a lot with the partners in that respect.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, fully agree. What about Mimu? How you think about when you are also operating with a lot of companies? How you think about it? How to reach these carbon neutrality goals from your side? What is your opinion about that?
Yes, I think we need to reach those goals, and the quicker so the better. And I think we have been talking quite a lot about energy efficiency, especially in the building sector. But what we should do is to speak about the power efficiency, so really the handling of the peak power and cutting down and shifting and shaving it. So that's really one important issue. And also, actually, really simple one is also that the space efficiency, when we are using, how we are using, especially, Ken was explaining this nice little app about how you are using the space efficiently. This is also really crucial for the energy use, that how we are using the buildings and when you are using, and how you can have multiple purposes in one building. So that is also one way that we are traditionally measuring the energy by kilowatt hours per square meters, but we should really measure it per person and per working hours or per living hours. So on that as well. So that is kind of I think really crucial. And then of course that we use the renewable energy sources as much as possible. So integrating waste heat and waste cool from other sectors to buildings as well.
Yeah, good. Okay, let's take a last round of comments from all the panelists, as then we still have time for the questions. There are a couple of questions from audience, so we have time to answer on those. So let's take a round with all of you, so that can we be trendsetters here in Finland? What do you think? Are we offering state-of-the-art things here in energy sector and smart buildings, and what is your key takeaway for the audience here? So one comment or a couple of sentences, around 1 minute from all of you. If we start with Mimu.
Right, so definitely we can be trendsetters, and I think that's even we must be trendsetters. I think we have really good. We have kind of ICT is natural for us, and we are not kind of scared to use data. But it's more that we really put the data to serve the services and the well-being and the sustainability and low carbon solution. So that's I think it's important that we are not only focusing on the low carbon, which is of course extremely important, but also on the well-being and the quality issues.
Thanks. What about Ken? What is your key takeaway for the audience?
Yeah, I think in terms of trendsetters, I'm a big fan of the kind of sharing economy and how we can kind of utilize that from a sustainability point of view. So, locally in Finland, we have Mass Global, which I take a lot of inspiration with, kind of really changing how people use their cars, and really looking at that and kind of looking at the change in remote working. And like Mimo said, it's not just about space efficiency; it's more about kind of really reusing buildings. And definitely with platforms, if a space is empty, then there's an online marketplace where it can be reserved. We also have a startup in Helsinki called Tractor.ai that's trying to do something very much like that, trying to kind of trade an empty room right now on a market so anyone can acquire it. So I really think kind of looking at some of those things and at the same time making sure the buildings are secure and people in those buildings are secure and kind of doing it in a really functional and professional way. I think the combinations of that are a real superpower of the local ecosystem.
Good, thanks. Next one, Tuomo, if you are telling your key takeaway.
Yeah, I like very much about these ambitious targets, and now we have ambitious target. Finnish carbon neutrality is very ambitious, and it's good for the actions. And now I would say that my key takeaway is that take the first step. First of all, you must set the targets, and we have now this 40% reduction in greenhouse gases. It would be a good starting point, and then just do it. It's not just happening. You must do it.
That's really great that you have to take the first step, otherwise it doesn't happen. Okay, Olli, what about from your point of view?
Yeah, well, I believe that Finland definitely can be a trendsetter, and I believe it's because of our cultural heritage. So there is this openness and collaboration. We have even a Finnish word called talk for these kind of things. So even though we are a small country there, so it's kind of easy to grab the next door guy and ask for would you like to work with me? So I think that's our strong point here.
Thanks. Okay, and then last one, Helena. What about from your point of view, key takeaway?
Yes, I also think that the Finnish targets about this carbon neutrality is very ambitious. It's also very inspiring. And the crucial question is then that how can we do it? And then what can the other countries and companies and cities learn from us? And that obviously need cooperation, intensified cooperation with all the counterparts. We need to have investments not only in research and development, but also in piloting and demonstration, and then also for the first industrial sized systems as well. And then when having those in place, we really have to look outside of Finland and scale up quickly and effectively on a global level.
Yes, thank you very much. Really great takeaways from all of you, so that you have to take your first step and go to international markets and be open, take part in the ecosystems and so on. Great. Thank you very much for this panel session. Now it's time to take a look of the questions that we are having here from the audience. If we start from the first ones, there's our audience called Afnan has asked from, actually it's question for Olli, for Nokia, that has there been multiple use cases of base station being liquid cooled? And is there a particular threshold or strength of the base station which can be liquid cooled, or is there any type of base station that can be liquid cooled?
Well, excellent questions. Thank you Thank you for those. What we have now shown today is basically the first one in the world, but obviously we are productizing those at the same time, trying to find the bigger customers. So things are moving on. So definitely. And if you think about the ICT sector, so liquid cooling is already there with servers. And when it comes to base station, it was excellent question also regarding that. So if all the base station could be liquid cooled, yes, definitely they all could be liquid cooled. There are certain benefits which are common to all of them, so the technical performance will improve, and probably also the size and the weight will reduce. And if you have an outdoor installation, even the wind load will reduce if you are using liquid cooling. But then if you about the reuse of the waste heat, the indoor installations are let's say the easier ones. So if you have an outdoor installation which is on rooftop, then there of course the reuse of the waste heat is kind of easy to plug into the harvesting systems usually are on roof. But some of our innovative customers have also proposed that even for those remote base station installations, you may reuse the waste heat. For example, one of the customers in New Zealand proposed that we could actually warm up the road crossings and crossroads there where it's freezing during winter time, and anyhow we are warming up the streets when we are afraid of they're too slippery. So the answer is that yeah, basically it's possible, and there are reuse options for all of the installations, but they may be a bit different depending on the case.
Okay, actually the second question from audience is from Mikko Hongisto, and he asks about liquid cooling expertise that could be applied in PV inverters and EV chargers. Have you considered this kind of opportunities?
Actually, that's excellent question once again. So I forgot to mention that in case of Satakunta-Talo, there was Efore, one of the companies that are making the rectifiers for our base stations. Our base station actually are using DC power, so we need to have an AC/DC conversion there. So they were actually part of the world's first liquid cooled base station, and they modified also their equipment into liquid cooling. So when it comes to other power equipment and other telecom equipment, yeah, definitely that's the case. Usually it's so that for example, that the bigger power consuming units in many cases have already been transformed to liquid cooling for technical reasons. But if you think about the reuse of the waste heat, so then also in many cases it may be feasible even for smaller power consuming units and equipment.
Good. Okay, we are having only 6 minutes time, so let's try to have a quick answers on these last 3 questions. So third question is from Dharmendra, and the question is about energy use and peak power demand on frost days in Finland. So, but it's not mentioned who should answer here, but if someone can answer something about that kind of data, that is there someone who collects that kind of data that and insights available about from where the peak consumptions are coming? So for example, those buildings causing peak demand. So is there that kind of data that who causes the peak power demand?
maybe I can take that question. So we have released actually our BMS system, which is gathering this kind of data, and it's actually mandatory to know that which is causing the peak power demand. So otherwise you are not able to optimize the peak power consumption, so to say. So we have started this kind of data collection, and it's the question about if our customers are willing to invest to this kind of data. But for sure, you have a payback for that kind of data management. This kind of traditional way of doing demand response without knowing the data sources or peak power consumption users, it's not efficient way of doing that. So data, we have certain sites already there. So data is not available yet, but we are having this kind of benchmarking data. I would say in near future.
Okay, good. Okay, next one is from Ismo Heimonen, and he asks from Ken about where's the limit, how much functionalities can be added in one app or user interface?
Yeah, we've seen this a few times. Even things like, can we put on the maps where the nearest fire extinguisher is, or a kind of escape route is, and these kind of things. I think that's really a question for the service designers. The most important thing on these apps is to really solve people's problems, to get people to start using them, and so they actually help people. Tomi Teiko from Tieto kind of describes this very well. He kind of calls them touch points, and it's about kind of finding a desk or finding a car parking space or finding a place to park your bike. And we really need to kind of understand the kind of customer journey in any particular building and really find the things that frustrate people and that they use on a daily basis. And it just needs to include them. And anything after that then is about, how successful it is and how easy it is to for people to opt into that information and not to just throw it at everyone at any one time. But there's definitely an art form there. But that's a kind of good problem to have. The challenge at the moment is really kind of solving people's problems and getting them to kind of use the infrastructure or the app in the first place.
Yes, great. Good, thanks. And then the last question is from Sari Toivonen from Business Finland, and she asked about how important you see international cooperation in ecosystem and foreign companies as partners in the local ecosystems. What expectations you have? I don't know who likes to answer on that. At least from Gecko ecosystem point of view, I think that it's natural that you don't need to invent wheel again. That if there's someone offering some great solution, then it's I think that it should be open for that kind of collaboration, that international partners can join in our local ecosystem. Or I don't know if this means that if there's a local ecosystem, so that we just move Finnish concepts for local ecosystems in somewhere in a global market. I don't know how you see this, but can someone say something about this kind of international cooperation?
We've had some really good experience just working on large EU projects. So I think the model of cooperation and of communication and of kind of stamping out any issues and kind of deciding the roles and responsibilities, I definitely have seen a lot of really good examples of that. So I think that's definitely doable due to the experience from those kind of projects.
Yes. Perfect. I think now it's last minute is just ongoing. So I really like to thank you all about joining this webinar, and please follow what we are doing here in Gecko Ecosystem and in Smart Otaniemi, and really great that we had great audience there, and thank you very much for the panelists and keynote speakers about this, and thank you, Sanna, for collaborating within this program. And do you like to say a couple of words, Sanna, for the end of this webinar?
Okay, thank you. It's been really pleasant 2 hours, and I hope you have enjoyed and get some nice practical overviews. And thank you Jukka, thank you Miimu, Ken, Tuomo, Olli, and Helena. And I really hope that we see you in VDP main event. Thank you so much.